But if you've gotten to a point where you're not being an idiot with your money, like we're just going to cover the screw, like they're not being a moron, and like you've run out of time, like you need to look at a restructure and how you're out. Like you need to restructure how your business is being executed.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Campfire. I'm your host, Desmond Dixon, and I'm here with only one co-host today, which she's a legend. Her name is Heather Stafford, and today we have a good one for you. Heather, what's up? How are you doing today?
Hey, everybody.
Boom. I'm here. We're live.
We're rocking and rolling.
Okay, so today, guys, we're going to have a short episode, and we're going to cover something that is critical for entrepreneurship, business, and really some middle management, which is capital allocation. And we're going to talk about how that relates to different stages of business. And then we're also going to talk about a little bit of arbitrage, which is, one of my favorite principles in business, which is tied to capital allocation. Cool. So before we dive in, I just want to give some quick definitions so that the audience is pretty aware of where this conversation is going to go. And so capital allocation,
good call.
Based upon Investopedia, is it means distributing and investing a company's financial resources in a way that will increase its efficiency and maximize its profits. A firm management seeks to allocate its capital in a way that will generate as much wealth as possible for its shareholders. Essentially, can you put $1 in and get $2 out, or $1.50 out? Like, the amount of money or even energy that you're investing into something, are you getting a return for that capital? And so the better you are at returning the capital, the better allocator you are. Boom. Sounds good?
Yep.
Cool. All right. So next definition, which is going to be critical to our talk today, is arbitrage, right? Arbitrage is the simultaneous purchase and sale of the same asset in different markets in order to take profit from tiny differences in assets' listed price. So an example of this is I have internal team members, correct? And let's just say that one of my clients or someone else wants to use some of the talent that I have within my organization. I might charge them $1,000. However, my cost to execute it for my team might be $500. So I make the difference of $500, right? Arbitrage. I'm purchasing and selling assets or things at the exact same time in order to make a margin, which is pretty prominent in capital markets, but it's used also in business, right? So Heather, I guess we'll start here. So I guess to talk to us a little bit about the stages of business and how capital allocation changes, like what the priority is in terms of like capital allocation for each of those stages of business, and then we'll unpack it from there.
So here's the fun part. We're gonna do this a little differently. Like, first and foremost, most people, what I've noticed over the last couple of weeks, talking to quite a few business owners and a lot of people who are in the solopreneur space, is that most people don't understand what stages of business really are from like a doing standpoint. They don't know what it looks like. So let's do this from an example standpoint. Let's play with some examples of where a business could be at, like how much money are you making, what are you doing, and then let's break down for them what they should be doing with their capital and what they should be doing, because I think examples will probably land better. So let's make up a fictitious example.
Let's use, sorry, I just had a call, but let's use, okay, let's say you accidentally start a business and you have your first few clients and at $50,000 a year in revenue.
So, you said, what was the very first part? Accidentally started a business?
Yeah, they got like pretty much like that. They people kept asking them about their cert, like asking them the help that they like stumbled into being an entrepreneur, so to speak. Right? They
So that
right?
you should charge for this, and then you kind of start doing it, but you really don't know what you're doing. So, all right. So let's take an example out of this. It's like you have to look at like, okay, so if you stumbled into being an entrepreneur, you have your first 10 clients and you're making $50,000 a year. Okay. So, and say for all intents and purposes, it's service and you do something monthly. Like, so you take 50,000 divided by 10, 5,000 divided by 12 is how much per client per month. And then you really do actually have to sit down and start looking at, okay, so where am I getting this money? When am I getting this money? What kind of work's being put in? What's the cost of goods sold? Like, how long does it take? What does it cost me to do it? Do I have to hire out? What does this look like? And you have to sit down and do the math. People make money. Like you'll stumble into getting your first client and it's say you charge $1,000 a month and someone goes, oh, I'll pay up front for the year. Great. I have $12,000. I'm just going to go spend it on doing A, B, or C. Yeah. You still have 12 months worth of work to do. Like you still have to execute all these things. And so how you allocate capital, how you use it, where you use it, and when you use it, and the percentages, like how much money should you be spending? Like you get $1,000, like for all intents and purposes, 100% of the money, like you should be setting aside 20% off the top for taxes, 16% for business overhead, 22% for marketing. And then you have what we look at for like the gap on the profit margin. Desmond, feel free to speak.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're getting into like specific numbers, but
well, no, I mean those are the current averages. So, you have to look at it. It's like people don't understand how to make money and how to spend it, because it's not just as simple as like, okay, I made a client, they paid me, and now I can go spend this money. It's everything else in the middle too, like. How, when, where, why?
I think the biggest thing I learned was emotionally important in terms of capital allocation is emotionally detaching yourself from the money that's made in the business. And because you have to like look at it as it's not your money, it's the business's money. And I think once you have that, like that nailed down, that understanding internally, it makes it easier to sometimes sit on your hands and wait, right? Maybe you let cash accumulate and then you figure out where to deploy it based upon what your strengths and weaknesses are and the goals of the company and you know where you can send this thing. So I think that's huge, right? And so something that I'm working on for this year personally is paying myself max 5% of the revenue that I bring in, right? So like I'm trying to train myself not to be like that. It's not my money. It's the business's money. And how can I use this capital in order to create more capital or more opportunities, right? More shots on goal. So when someone's in this beginning stage, right? Where, before I even go there, this is also super important. So Patrick Bet-Davis talks about this a lot. Shout out to him. His 20 rules of money was a really great video. And he kind of explains the 20, the relationship of money and all these different things. And something that really landed with me, what he said was getting lump sum money, like you said, like you have to divide that down by the year. It's not like you're receiving, like you can't look at it like, oh, my business made all of this for February or March, and next month I'm going to get another lump sum. You got to like break it down of like, okay, this is how much my business made this month based upon like cut the lump sum, spread it out over the year. Right. That was a huge thing that landed for me. And I'm also a bigger fan of cash flow than lump sums in general. So if I can make another 20%, 10 to 20% in margin by extending the cash flow, if I'm not scaling the company, like if I don't need the money right away to pay for more clients, then I would rather take the cash flow than the lump sum because I can make more margin over time. But that's just me. So Heather, like, let's just say that, now that this person's, let's say they put their money to the side like they're supposed to with taxes and, with operations, they just hit $180,000, right, for the year in revenue. How does their capital allocation strategy change now, you think?
Say that differently.
Okay, so you're a solopreneur, right? And you might have some contractors helping you out, like maybe a personal assistant or something. And you just stumbled into business. You've saved some cash. Let's say that you have about $50,000 in the bank, and you just hit the $180,000 milestone for the year. And you're interested in growing more, but you don't have the time to grow more. Like your time is up, right? Like you are working 50 hours, 60 hours a week. You got 180, you have $50,000 in the bank. How do we handle this capital allocation situation?
Well, I mean, it's capital allocation, but it's what kind of capital are we talking about? Because you have to get real. Like there's time and there's relationship and there's money and there's service. Like all of those things are different types of capital in a business. But if you've gotten to a point where you're not being an idiot with your money, like we're just going to cover the screw, like they're not being a moron, and like you've run out of time. Like you need to look at a restructure and how you're out. Like you need to restructure how your business is being executed. So your business execution plan and the capital that you're going to allocate to executing the business differently. Right about the 100 and I would say 145, somewhere between 145 and 195 is where you kind of see the split with most like solopreneurs or like 1 and 2 person teams. You'll start to see that split where time gets in your way. You get to a point where there is no more time. So then what do? Well, you can either do it differently, or you can just restructure who's doing what. So you can duplicate yourself, or you can restructure how it's executed. And both of those require both capital allocation from like a financial and a time perspective, because you will get to a point where a business will cap out. There's a ceiling that you cannot break, and it's a time ceiling.
Oh, I think that landed. Yeah, that landed for sure. Like the whole time thing, and like, we talk about time a lot because time is the ultimate matter of value, right? In terms of value for an offer, value for personal self, right? Time is just so important. And I've learned in terms of like what works for me in terms of capital allocation is outsourcing weakness possible. And I'm in the process right now of like, okay, well, how can I, not how can I replace myself, but how can I create a number 2 who can do it 80% as good as I can? Right. And I can also participate in a little arbitrage, right? Like me personally, based upon time on my calendar, I maybe have 1 slot open for maybe 1 more client. And so I'm like, man, okay, well, maybe I should bring someone on internally, teach them how to do teach them a process, teach them how to do what I do, and then take on more contracts at that same price and obviously pay that person a fair value for that contract and then make the margin in between, right? And try to scale and reinvest that money, those profits into the business to grow something sustainable.
So what are the 3 things that business owners are most scared of when we come to this point?
Biting more, like overspending for sure. Also, in the opposite effect of like, is this something I really want? Right. Because, like reaching another level means a whole nother level of accountability and responsibility. So like the fear of, okay, what if it's work and I'm working, the trap. And then I think another big thing is the trust factor, right? do I trust my team? Can I have the mental strength to remove myself mentally and trust my own processes and operations and my hiring judgment to hire the right people to progress? Or am I giving the keys to the kingdom of morons? I mean, I hate to say it like that, but like,
can they do it as well as I can?
Yes. That's it. That's
because the risk system attached to this, like I was actually talking about this with a client who has an employee that is starting to like really intrinsically see their value. It's like, well, I should be getting paid more, and you're taking zero risk in this company. Like you don't hold any of the dominoes that'll fall on your head. So like it's like, can I inspire and educate and kind of inject the special sauce into somebody else for them to want to do this as well as I do, for them to desire to do this as well as I do.
Man, this is good stuff. All right, I know where I want to go as well. So something that I remember you always told me, and when I'm always thinking of a new business idea, which guys, I probably come up with like 3 ideas a month, like solid, like
easily.
Hey, here's a cookie. I'm thinking about this. And I remember one thing that you really liked to help me with in terms of like mental modeling around this, because starting a business is a ton of work. Like for instance, this podcast, right? Like, we're like so involved emotionally, financially, and time-wise that we just want to like keep delivering value. And I couldn't imagine doing an entirely different business, like from the ground up. Like, man, that's just so much work. So something that you always tell me in terms of the mental modeling is like, okay, who else is doing this? And is there a way to white label or like to partner or collaborate? Like is there an easier way to solve this problem? And I think that's super important to talk about because like why reinvent the wheel and why not leverage and create partnerships in areas besides like standing up a new business unit. Like for instance, if I wanted to get into lead generation, besides standing that up, who can I white label? Who can I partner with or create affiliates with in order to cross sell, cross promote something that's in the best interest of my clients, right? That can help them, right? And I think that lands. So like unpack that a little bit for us, because I think that always sounds like, what's the mental modeling of knowing when to white label, partner, and do affiliate agreements and stuff like that?
So a lot of this has to do with like, we're going to take this. I'm going to give you a really great example. And that was, we'll use the start of my, like the parent company that I own. So when I first started parent company, a lot of what I was doing was like design and execution for like lead sales and like landing pages, a lot of design work. And it was design it. Well, then who executes it? Well, an executor may not think through something the same way you do. So then you're like, well, no, I need to execute it. I'm going to build another division and I'm going to build another and I'm going to build another. Well, when you're looking at something where you see a gap, like your process ends and it overlaps with another piece of the bigger puzzle, because everybody's zone of genius. There is not one person in this world that is smart enough to do it all. You cannot solve all the problems, especially in business, from A to Z. You do your piece, but look at where your piece overlaps with other pieces. Like, what does it overlap with? Like, if you're a marketing consultant, you overlap with designers, you overlap with lead generation, you overlap with hiring, you overlap with everything. If you're in business growth, you overlap with lead generation, you overlap with all sorts of stuff, marketing. So where do you overlap and what does that look like? Because if your client needs your services, then the trajectory states that that's either the next thing that they need or one of the next things that they will need is that next service. So if you can see what your client's needing next and it is not something that you do specifically, then who does? Who does this? And what does that look like? And then you find the best solution And you go to them and you say, okay, great. So my client, like, people work with me right before they work with you. And this is what I do. This is how my process goes. And I'd really love to have your team execute this vision, because as soon as they get done doing ABC with me, they have to do XYZ with you. That's where you look for a perfect partnership. As soon as somebody decides what they're selling and how they're going to deliver it, they need to get leads. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, this lands. Yeah, this lands for sure. It's like, man, creating win-wins, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's
beautiful.
the biggest thing in the middle is like, where do I create, where and how can I create a win-win? What does it look like? And how does it play out? Because that's really what you're looking for, is like, what does this look like in play, and how does it play out? How could it look? And if you really can't find something in the market, sure, try to create it. But if you can't find it in the market, there's a good chance there's a reason why somebody hasn't done it already. That means that there's a gap in your process. You are not seeing something. And that's just the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting stuff. Man, this is getting fun now. And so, yeah, this gets fun because, we covered, when you're accidentally becoming an entrepreneur. We covered when, you're hitting that plateau and you got to make some decisions about time and, partnerships and, what's the most appropriate way, because, here's the reality. Most businesses don't fail from starvation. They fail from indigestion, right? I don't consider a business being a business if they don't have sales, right? So if you never got any sales, I think that's still in the hobby area and there's not a business. But if you do get sales, usually most businesses die from growing too fast and putting too much stress on the systems and, crashing and burning and people leaving. And, now you're just left with the bag, right? Of debt
not creating the infrastructure that you need. You have to create the infrastructure. And like, when I create business plans and when I launch companies, like during the beta phase, we create 2, what we call oh shit plans. Oh shit plan number 1 is, oh shit, this did not work. This did not work. This is not a good choice. And it happens. Fuck it. And then we create that, oh shit, this worked, and shit, it worked way too fast. Now what am I supposed to do? Because you have to be able to look at that side of it too. It's like, oh, this totally took off. Now what? Now what do we do? And where do we go from here?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh shit plans. I need to create a no shit plan.
You create an executable plan for, okay, we've gotten to here and I'm overwhelmed. You create a, oh shit, this worked, and an oh shit, this didn't work. So that when you, if and when you ever get to either one of those points, you already know what to do. I mean, the best analogy I can give for this is, I truly and very deeply believe that people should create their exit plan when they get started. So, for example, when you're getting married, agree on the terms that you will abide to if you get divorced. Because then nobody wants to talk about it. Oh, we're going to be together forever. Yeah, fuck you. That's neat. It's not true. It's adorable. And create the terms in which you are willing to interact with somebody if you are exiting, because you are creating your exit plan when you love somebody the most. I promise to act like this should shit go fucking belly up. I promise to do these 5 things should this business fail.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting stuff. Okay, so let's talk this out. So let's just say that, what's the typical situation? Let's say that you scaled, you successfully, you made it through the plateau. You have now a multi-person organization. You're at a little over $1.2 million in revenue with a healthy let's say 40% margin, right? So you're a Jedi at this point, but now you're at a new plateau. And this plateau is about dried up customer acquisition channel. So like the channel that you were using kind of hit a growth ceiling, and now you're looking for either you're at a situation where it's like we could stay here, or we could discover new ways of capital out, new ways to deploy capital to create a new channel. So like, let's talk through that scenario.
Okay, well, first and foremost, like businesses should only be getting here during the it's a pace where you're going from organic lead generation to paid lead generation. Okay. When you're going from organic to paid, that's when you're going to hit this. If you're hitting this you will have to change your paid lead generation strategy, sure. But you really should only be hitting this. Okay, shit. Now what am I supposed to do? When you're going from organic to paid leads, and you don't even bother touching paid advertising until you're doing at least $150,000 a year, at least. If you're not doing at least $150,000 in revenue a year, you've no business doing paid ads. So when you're going to shift from, okay, so we're going from organic advertising to paid advertising, that's when you're going to make your first plan. You should be consistently reviewing, analyzing, and adjusting that marketing plan from that moment forward. Because an acquisition channel drying up, like you should see that coming. But you should always, that plan should be put in place. If you're doing that kind of lead gen, you should already be working with somebody who is consulting on, here are the next 5 things you're going to be doing. Here's how you're going to do them. Here's why you're going to do them. And when is dependent upon when your lead channels slow down. That's it.
So always have an oh shit plan.
Yep. Again, always with the oh shit plan.
Yeah. Cool. So I think that's good for today. We're going to wrap up. Today's a short episode, and this is part 1 about capital allocation and arbitrage. We're going to definitely be bringing on more guests to talk about very specific things related to capital allocation. We actually have some already on the docket. Super excited. Don't want to give them away. However, if you love the show, definitely give us a great rating. Leave us a review. Send us some questions. If you want to be a guest and play with us in the sandbox, go to campfirecapitalism.com/guests and let's play in the possibility. But yeah, today was fun. See ya.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye guys.